After my gold prospecting adventure, I determined to see more of Australia and visit its large cities. In the capital city of one state where my map divining brought me into contact with so many men, I suddenly found that fate had cast me for the role of heroine in a fast-moving and dramatic romance. The glittering stage was set with the handsome hero, powerful, traveled, rich and grimly determined, and myself, as the elusive heroine. The backdrop showed a stately mansion overlooking a shimmering bay where a large white yacht was moored, gently lapped by the calm blue sea, only waiting to materialize when and how the heroine decreed. The audience sat enthralled, as they watched the hero overcoming all obstacles and bending the heroine to his will. So, the curtain went up for the last act with weddings bells and nuptial bliss. Then fate, that fickle jade, again took a hand in this strange drama, and reversed her tactics, and catastrophe occurred. From the darkest corner of the wings crept the green-eyed villainess, who threw a bomb, filled with the venom of jealousy and spite, into the center of the stage, and the whole scene vanished like morning mist in a summer sun. The heroine fled on the wings of a big white dove aeroplane, as far as it could carry her, thereby making a safe, if inglorious exit, leaving the hero alone in the desolation of a dark and empty stage. It was a cruel trick of fate, as in a brief space of time the hero was dead, and the jade had deprived him of a few months of happiness for which he had fought so hard, and of seeing the maps in which he had so firmly believed proved beyond all question. Yet life goes on, and its players must pick up the broken threads and weave them together again and dance like puppets in Shakespeare's mad world with fate to pull the strings. As soon as I had recovered from the shock of this all too dramatic ending to a glamorous romance, I took refuge again in work. I had received so much kindness in New South Wales from the members and officials of the Graziers Association, and had saved many thousands of sheep from dying by finding water on the various stations I had visited. I expected to receive the same treatment from the Graziers Associations in the other states. I was quickly disillusioned. In one state which I visited, where the need for water was very great, I met with active antagonism from the association and was rudely awakened to the fact that I had been cheated. An official of the association informed me that one of their members was interested in having a water divining map made of his property, which comprised about 1 million acres and was very short of water. This was something very much bigger than I had ever attempted before. 1 million acres is 1,562 square miles. I pointed out that for divining purposes a map should not cover more than 27 square miles and that I never worked without a contract. But I was told that, so far as remuneration was concerned, I need have no fear, as I would be dealing with a man of unquestionable integrity. A map was then made of this enormous property, and I was shown on it the area where the water was most needed, although I was told that it would be of the greatest value wherever I found it. There was a tremendous amount of work involved in doing the map, and I had an uncomfortable feeling all the time that all was not well. Unfortunately, it was one of the occasions when I did not obey my instinct, and I suffered accordingly. When the map was unrolled to show to the owner, it covered half the huge committee room table. The owner and the official pored over it carefully, noting the position of the underground streams crossing certain paddocks and remarking that there was a good intersection of streams near the homestead. I pointed out that T had been able to find several streams in the area where they were most needed, but, notwithstanding what I had previously been told, I was curtly informed by the owner that he was not interested in that area, but only in the other areas where I had marked no streams. Then, pointing to a spot on the map, he asked, "There is a small surface stream here. Why have you not marked it?" I explained that when water came to the surface, it lost all its power of attraction for the diviner, and that it was a waste of time to show streams, which were visible to anyone. Immediately he flew into a rage and shouted at me, "I don't believe a word of it. You didn't put the stream in, because you couldn't find it. I don't believe in map divining or any other sort of divining, and I won't take the map or pay you a penny for it." Whereupon he gave a knowing look at the official and left the room, taking with him the knowledge he had gained from the map and my weeks of hard work. What he evidently did not know was that a stream could be missed by a foot, and often by an inch, if it was a boring proposition, and that it would be quite impossible to locate any of the exact sites I had found without the aid of the map. He would probably therefore waste large sums of money in digging or drilling holes which would be dry. Anyway, it was one of the worst bits of chicanery that I have ever experienced. The official tried to soothe my feelings with a lot of soft talk, while rolling up the map which, he said, he would put away and keep safely for me. However, having walked into a trap and had my brains picked, I felt it was time to have done with courtesies, so snatching the map out of his hands I cried, "Indeed you won't. I will keep my own map," and stalked out of the room with it under my arm, thereby preventing its being handed over to the station owner as soon as my back was turned, or a copy being made before the original was returned to me. I took the map home and burnt it. And as I watched the fierce flames shooting into the air, I thought how easy it would have been for a red Indian medicine man or a Hawaiian kahuna to have thrown a curse into those flames, which would have struck straight at those two men who had handled the map so recently and thereby established a contact on which the curse could travel. As I mentioned earlier on, I once met Paul Brunton in London, and regarded him as one of the most advanced European yogis. He struck me as a normal, somewhat self-effacing man, until one noticed his piercing eyes, large and yellow like a tiger's, and which gave one the uncomfortable feeling that one's whole life and most secret thoughts were an open book to them. I had spoken to him about the great force emanating from the earth which governs diviners at their work, and asked him, should they become really angry when divining, could they use this force for evil, even to the extent of killing anyone? I showed him a quick, but simple gesture with one hand, by which I believed this would be possible. He quietly replied that it could be done, but then seemed to realize the terrible consequences latent in my inquiry. "Who told you that?" he exclaimed. "You have no right to this knowledge. You are not ready," meaning of course, that such knowledge was extremely dangerous in the hands of anyone whose moral being was not fortified by the highest aspects of yoga. I said, with perfect truth, that no one had told me and that it was one of the many things which I had learnt in divining, and I was glad to be able to assure him that I had never attempted to put my knowledge to the test against man or beast. One of the strange things I have recently discovered, and which has revolutionized my ideas regarding map divining, happened in a curious way here in Australia. I had always insisted that a map on which I was to divine for water or oil must be an accurate plan of an area of land, drawn to scale, and that it must have on it a number of distinguishing features, such as townships, hills, creeks and so on. This was to enable me to make mental contact with the particular area of land which it represented, although it might possibly be thousands of miles away. It happened in the summer of 1952-53. A Perth businessman had a son aged about 28, handicapped by a severe physical disability, but who was, nevertheless, a very cheery and delightful personality. He decided to buy 500 acres of virgin land some 50 miles from Perth, with the idea of erecting a cottage and establishing a small farm. The first thing to do was to find water, and, to show my admiration for the young man's courageous attitude towards life, I volunteered to make a divining survey of his land to find the best spots for boring for water. I stipulated, however, that I must have a map, as I never worked without one, no matter how small the area. This presented somewhat of a difficulty. Eventually, a very small-scale map was obtained and brought for my inspection. It showed only the bare outlines of the property, but included a curiously shaped paddock, indicated by the usual black lines, in one corner and 2 roads outside the boundary of the lot. No buildings, fences or natural features were shown. However, I felt that the unsymmetrical shape of the lot and the curious shape of the small paddock, plus the 2 roads, should individualize the map sufficiently to enable me to use it. So I had it enlarged to 5 chains to the inch and set to work. The water on the property seemed excellent and plentiful, and I found one spot where no less than 15 streams intersected. When I had finished, the map was given to a surveyor to mark the spots I had chosen on the ground. Then I was taken to the property. On a hot Sunday morning in November, we turned off the highway onto a country road which was unpleasantly rough. We then went into the bush and followed a still rougher track for a considerable distance. Finally I said to the young man's father, "Are we getting near the property?" and was astonished when he told me that we had been on it for a considerable time. "But where is the fence?" I asked. "We haven't come through a fence anywhere. And where is that little queer-shaped paddock?" I understood from the map that it was near the corner where we were to come in. I didn't see that either, and the two roads. Where are they? My astonishment increased when he said that there were no fences and that the little paddock and the roads didn't exist. The map had apparently been made by the government surveyor when dividing up the area into farming lots, and the only distinguishing features were the survey pegs, one of which my friend's surveyor had made use of when pegging out the water locations which I had found. I was staggered when I realized that for divining purposes, it wasn't a map at all. It meant I might have come into mental contact with any 500 acres in the 976,000 square miles, 11 times the size of Great Britain, which make up the huge state of Western Australia, and that moreover there could easily be no water in any of the 8 spots which the surveyor had pegged. But my fears were groundless, for every spot marked by the surveyor was accurate to within a foot, and I got the correct reactions for water at every one, including the place with the 15 streams, where they should get at least 1 million gallons of water a day, if they could find a driller who could tackle it. The spots marked were just as accurate as they would have been if they had been based on a correctly drawn map. Unfortunately, this property was covered with large granite boulders and, as I have said elsewhere, no Australian driller will drill in granite. Nevertheless, wherever they could elude the granite they got water, notwithstanding that the usual map divining aids were absent from the map by which the water was discovered. What I had used was just a phantom map, but yet it worked. I am still hoping that someday someone will be able to explain how it was done. I know I can't. End of part 24.